Yes, it's finally here, the start of the 2024 college football season. Our Big Four teams all kick off this week. Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Arkansas, and Tulsa. And hello everyone, I'm Chris Lincoln. Welcome to our special football preview show. We're going to feature the four play-by-play announcers of our teams. Toby Rowland of the Sooners, Dave Hunziker, the voice of the Oklahoma State Cowboys pistols firing, Bruce Howard of the University of Tulsa, and Chuck Barrett, longtime announcer for the Arkansas Razorbacks. First, let's start with our Tulsa World Hot Topics. Season kicks off. Here are the favorites to win the 2024 Heisman Trophy. Dylan Gabriel, remember him from Oklahoma, transferred to Oregon. He's now the 7-1 favorite to win the Heisman. Then he's followed by Carson Beck, the Georgia quarterback, Jackson Dart of Ole Miss, and in this area, Quinn Ewers of Texas. The Longhorn quarterback is the 8th pick in the early Heisman running at 16-1. Well, for the first time in program history, Oklahoma State has sold every ticket for every home game before the 24-24 season kicks off this Saturday. The Cowboys have a 23-3 home record, by the way, since 2020 in their openers, third best in all of college football behind only Alabama and Clemson. And in an innovative effort to help Cowboy athletes raise name, image, likeness money, OSU is the first program to wear QR code patches on the back of their helmets so fans can donate to the Cowboys' general NIL fund. Speaking of money, the University of Oklahoma has set a new record of $110.3 million in donations to their athletic department since 2020. Students have now raised over $348 million. Tulsa Drillers hopes to make the Texas League Baseball playoffs took a hit this past week in Springfield. They lost 5 of 6 games in that series to the first place Cardinals. Drillers have fallen to 4th place in the Texas League North Division. They're now 9.5 games back. Tulsa continues on the road this week with a 6-game series at Corpus Christi before returning home for its final homestand of the season, September 3rd through the 8th against San Antonio at One Oak Field. FC Tulsa ended a 3-game road trip in Detroit on August 24th with a 1-0 victory over Detroit City FC. Tulsa's newest player, Aaron Bebout, on loan from LA Galaxy in Major League Soccer, scored the first goal of his USL Championship career. The win put Tulsa over the playoff line in the Western Conference. FC Tulsa's next home match is coming up on Sunday, September 1st, when they host the Colorado Springs Switchbacks FC. That's a 9:05 kickoff, a late kickoff at One Oak Field this Sunday. Coming up here at Oklahoma Sports Scene, we preview the start of our Big Four college football season and talk with all the football play-by-play announcers, the Razorbacks, the Hurricane, Cowboys, and the Sooners. That's next on Oklahoma Sports Scene.
Our story, it lives in Tulsa, where the spirit of the past lives alongside us and urges us on toward a vibrant future. Because our story is still being written. It's the story of Tulsa, told by the journalists who live it and love it. Whether it's covering our rich history, bringing you the hidden gems of the food scene, or following the action in local sports. And here, in the Tulsa world, is where it comes to life.
Thoroughbred season at Remington Park continues into December with plenty of winning primetime action. Make plans now for Oklahoma Derby Day on Sunday, September 29th. The lone Sunday afternoon of the season begins at 3 p.m. with the richest race of the season, the Grade 3 $400,000 Oklahoma Derby as the main event. The normal Remington Park Racing Week is Wednesday through Saturday. First race nightly, 6:30 p.m. Visit RemingtonPark.com for all post times, group rates, and dining reservations.
You've seen the billboards, you've heard the hype, and now it's time for the Wee Street Ice Center to open its doors and welcome you in. 140,000 square feet, 2 ice rinks, public skating, hockey, arcade, game simulators, and the largest sports bar and grill is sliding into Tulsa. It's the grand opening of the new Wee Street Ice Center, 43rd and Yale. Make your plans, get your skate on, or watch some sports today. The Wee Street Ice Center, now open and ready to serve you. Wee Street Ice Center, 43rd and Yale.
The 155th season of college football is underway. Kicked off last Saturday, August 24th. The regular season will run through December the 14th, and the postseason begins. It begins with, ready for this, 41 bowl games. Plus, of course, the first expanded 12-game college football playoffs. Here's how that's going to work. The 5 highest-ranked conference champions in the next 7 highest-ranked is picked by the CFP committee. Top 4 highest-ranked conference champions get first-round byes. Then the seeds 5 through 8 will host first-round games, all leading to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, Atlanta, Georgia, for the January 20th National Championship game. The main rule changes this season are the 2-minute warning at the end of each half, like NFL. Also, like the NFL, they've had communications to the helmets of an offensive and a defensive player. So again, here's this week one schedule for the Big Four. It begins Thursday, 7 o'clock. Tulsa hosts Northwestern State, start of the second season for Coach Kevin Wilson. On Friday, it's OU opening the season against Temple at 6 p.m. on ESPN National. Saturday at 1 o'clock, Oklahoma State takes on South Dakota State in Stillwater. And Saturday evening at War Memorial Stadium in Little Rock, Arkansas, the Hogs host Arkansas Pine Bluff. Here is where our college football Big Four teams have a little history and some games won totally. Oklahoma started their season in 1895 football program with 944 wins. Oklahoma State began in 1914, 604 victories. Tulsa started in 1917, 511 wins. Arkansas began 1894, Razorbacks with 770 victories. Now, for the inside look at our Big Four area college football teams, each of their 4 play-by-play announcers joined us on Oklahoma Sportscene. We're going to start in his 14th season with Toby Rowland, the voice of the Oklahoma Sooners. And Toby, for you, how did it all begin?
Well, it's great to be on with you. I'm just extremely fortunate. I think that I was at Southern Nazarene University. I went to school there and started as their play-by-play voice way back in 1994 and called games for SNU and several high schools around the area and got to know OU a little bit through my work at Channel 9 back in the early 2000s. And so just the opportunity to get to work with Bob Berry his last couple of years before he retired was such a thrill. I was the sideline reporter back then. And so the timing just happened to be what it was, that I got my foot in the door, and Joe Castiglione gambled on a young guy who didn't have a ton of experience. I had experience, but not as much as a lot of other guys. And so I'll be eternally grateful to the University of Oklahoma for trusting me.
Toby, I know you're aware of the great legacy of Oklahoma play-by-play announcers. We're talking dating back to 1937, a guy named Walter Cronkite, a great news broadcaster, and then looking ahead, Kurt Gowdy, voiced from 45 to 50. Now you join that group.
Yeah, that's a little bit too much to think about. I grew up listening to John Brooks and Bob Berry and of course Mike Treps is legendary, and you mentioned Walter Cronkite and Kurt Gowdy way back when. It's amazing the men who have sat in the chair for this job at the University of Oklahoma. And so I will never be Walter Cronkite. I'll never be any of those guys. But I'm just trying to be the best Toby Rowland I can be, and hopefully not embarrass those guys if I can.
So, Toby, what have been some of your favorite moments through the years? Some of your favorite players, some of the favorite coaches you've dealt with at OU?
Well, there's been a lot. I think the two athletes who jump off the page the most are Baker Mayfield and Buddy Hield. Not only great players, obviously. One won a Heisman and the other was a National Player of the Year, but larger than life personalities. And they were just such tremendous interviews and sound bites and everything that goes into our job. So I think Buddy and Baker are probably my two favorite athletes that I've had a chance to work with in the last now 14 years. But I mean, you look at just coaches alone, Bob Stoops and Lincoln Riley, now Brent Venables, and Lon Kruger was just an all-timer of a human being. And I love Porter Moser, of course, Sonny Galloway now, and Skip Johnson is just tremendous. So I've been very fortunate that not only has Oklahoma won a bunch of games, won a bunch of national awards, but just some, top-notch human beings during the last decade and a half.
All right, now you're going to make some more history. You're the voice of the Sooners going into the SEC Conference. Take a look at the media poll, the preseason. Doesn't look real good for the Sooners. They've got OU way down there in the poll at number 8 of the 16 teams. So your thoughts?
It seems weird for sure. We're not used to seeing Oklahoma in a preseason poll ranked 8th, not in football. So that's bizarre. I don't necessarily think it's. I would say it's understandable for sure. I mean, this conference is unbelievable, and Oklahoma is ranked preseason number 16 in the nation, and in the AP and the coaches poll, and in both situations, they are the 8th highest SEC team, despite being number 16 in the country. So, we're all guessing. Everybody, the coaches, the media, everybody's just guessing how good somebody is when a year starts. But it is a shock to the system if you're an OU football fan for a preseason conference poll to come out and not see Oklahoma 1 or 2. That's always been that way for as long as I can remember. So that's just life in the new SEC. That's the way it's going to be around this neighborhood.
All right, let's take a look now at the Sooners 2024 schedule, starting with 4 home games. It really is going to help out. But everybody seems to say, Joe, this is certainly one of the toughest schedules and maybe the toughest for the SEC teams.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's the toughest OU schedule that I can ever remember, and that's even with some fairly nondescript non-conference games. It's just you look at the SEC slate, and other than maybe Florida, I think OU got the toughest draw this year in the schedule category. Your road trips to Ole Miss and LSU, home games against Tennessee and Alabama, road trip to Auburn. Missouri is really good this year. The Sooners have to go there as well. I mean, it's just relentless. And then you throw Texas in there, who, of course, the Sooners always play, and they're expected to be one of the top 5 or 10 teams in the country this year as well. So it sure is going to make it exciting for us, for fans and the media covering, because every week it seems like a big-time opponent's either coming into Norman or we're going to them.
All right, so Toby, how did Dylan Gabriel get away from the Sooners? He's now the favorite to win the Heisman Trophy, and we're left with a sophomore quarterback with a lot of potential, but a lot of raw talent, certainly.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation because I think that I don't know that I'd say he got away. I think it was kind of a mutual agreement. I think that whether it was to the NFL or to another school, Brent Venables and OU, and maybe even a significant portion of their fan base was ready to see what Jackson Arnold was all about. And so you're left in a situation now where the guy you had is the front runner to win the Heisman Trophy. And I don't know that there's a whole lot of OU fans that are upset with how it developed. I mean, I think they wish him the best, and they certainly love what Dylan Gabriel did for him while he was here, but they were ready to move on and felt like it was time for the Jackson Arnold era to begin. So is it a massive mistake, or is it brilliant? I don't know. We'll see how this season plays out. Something similar, happened to Kansas State this year. They kind of said to Will Howard, we're going to go with the other guy. And Will Howard up and went to Ohio State. So you got the number 2 and 3 ranked teams in the country, Ohio State and Oregon, who are quarterbacked by a couple of guys who their previous school kind of said, well, good luck, and sent them on their way. So it's bizarre for sure.
Well, I've been there for all the preseason, of course, and the workouts, and still the question's been, all season has been so far, what about an offensive line totally rebuilt, and could this be as good a defense as we've seen at OU in a long time?
Yeah, I think that, I hope we'll start with the second question there first. I think on paper, it looks like that could be the case, that this could be the best Oklahoma defense in, over a decade. They're certainly deep. There's a lot of talent. They understand Brent Venables' system now in year 3. You've got difference makers at every level. You've got some guys that are potential national award winners in Danny Stutzman and Billy Bowman. And it's exciting. It's exciting to see what, in a pretty short amount of time, Brent Venables has built on the defensive side of the ball. I do think, to your first question, the biggest question mark going into the season is the offensive line. And not that they couldn't be pretty good in the end, because Bill Beatonboat has a great track record there, but they're just an unknown. It's completely rebuilt. It's, for the most part, completely new characters on that offensive line. And there has been some injuries as well in the fall. So how will they all come together? Will they gel? Will they be good enough in the SEC against the formidable defensive lines that they're going to face. So for me, the offensive line and whether or not Jackson Arnold is ready to be a difference maker are the two biggest questions going into the year.
Another career for you, an author. How about that? As a book, a children's book to talk about Unhitch the Wagon.
Yeah, thank you. Unhitch the Wagon. I've written 2 books now. Unhitch the Wagon was the first book. It came out about 4 years ago, and then we followed it up this summer with Put the Ponies in the Barn. And it's been one of the great joys of my life. I didn't anticipate being an author. I have 3 kids and over a dozen nieces and nephews, and now one grandchild and another grandchild on the way.
Great.
And so kids are a big part of my life, and certainly children's books have been a big part of my life as well. And I thought 4 or 5 years ago, I don't know that there are a bunch of OU children's books on the market. So I took a run at writing one, and it came out okay. And we found a publisher, and ever since it's been a lot of fun. I've had the opportunities to read to schools and church groups and meet a bunch of Sooner fans, kids and their parents I wouldn't have otherwise if not for these books. So I appreciate you bringing it up. You can find them on Amazon or Barnes & Noble, but it's a lot of fun.
Toby Rowland, the voice of the Sooners. To wish you a great season, and of course, Boomer.
Sooner. Thank you, Chris.
And next, we go to Oklahoma State announcer Dave Hunziker and find out where do you get that pistols firing phrase. That's straight ahead, right here on Oklahoma Sports Scene.
It's time. Time to get back to the basics. Time to meet up with family and friends. Time to play ball. It's time to cheer on your Tulsa Drillers. It's Hornsby time. It's Tulsa time in the heart of the city. It's time to fire it up.
Founded in 1960, Ed Bashira's Formal Wear and Fine Clothing has been dressing gentlemen for over half a century. We are family owned and operated, offering premium brand tuxedos and accessories in our Tulsa store on South Harvard. Bashira's also does made-to-measure suits, sports coats, dress shirts and slacks, and a top line of sportswear. We do tailoring on site to assure the perfect fit so you will look your very best for that special occasion. Ed Bashira's Formal Wear and Fine Clothing, an Oklahoma tradition.
As the sun rises over eastern Oklahoma, we are devoted to one thing: improving the health of our communities, our home. We are your friends, your neighbors. We are the people of St. Francis.
The Oklahoma Sports Hall of Fame, home of the Paycom Jim Thorpe Award, is a treasure trove of memorabilia honoring Oklahoma sports legends. For museum hours or to schedule a tour, go to oklahomasportshalloffame.org.
Pistols firing, that can only mean Dave Hunziker, the voice of the Oklahoma State Cowboys. And Dave, that's a good place to start is, where'd you come up with that pistols firing phrase?
Oh, I just kind of threw it out there to see what would happen. I don't know if I realized what a gamble that was, but would have been the second game that I did in 2001. I think we had some sort of a weird play on a punt. Louisiana Tech was the opponent. I think they fumbled a punt snap or something, might have recovered it in the end zone. I'm not sure if that was the first time, but it was one of the first times. And the reason it took off is because of the fact we've been winning at an unprecedented level of consistency all these years. So you could say about anything, when you're winning like we are, they'll get excited about it.
And Dave, this is what, your 20th season? Is that right?
Actually, 24.
Wow.
So
I'm behind some. Yeah, gosh.
Actually 24, started in 2001. So yeah, it's been a while.
Well, that makes you the longest, certainly play-by-play announcer in Oklahoma State University history here. And you realize you have more seniority than head coach Mike Gundy in his 20th season.
Well, he has an important job, and mine's just kind of as a messenger. So I think his 20 trumps my 24. It trumped my 44, but I've been fortunate to be here for a long time. It's worked out wonderfully. When we moved here, I'd only been to Stillwater once. My wife had never been here before, and we could not have asked for anything any better. It's great for our girls to grow up here. It's been awesome professionally for my wife. It has been for me as well. So many great friends here, and it's really been a terrific experience.
I think it's interesting that you gave a lot of credit to one of the guys who helped you get the Oklahoma State job. Spoke up for you as a former colleague of ours at Mizzou, Joe Castiglione, of course, now the athletic director at Oklahoma.
Yeah, he was. He was probably the lead person as far as my pursuit of this. I knew Joe when I was a student at Mizzou, and then working at KFRU Radio after my Mizzou graduation for 3 years. And so he really encouraged me to pursue it. And he was great. There was a time where I had some cold feet about it, and he encouraged me, hey, you need to stick in this thing. And, I know from what Terry Don Phillips, our athletic director at that time, told me that, Joe's word means a lot. Joe knows a lot about everything in athletics, but broadcasting may be as strong a suit as he has with all the announcers that he worked with at Missouri, the ones he's had at Oklahoma. He gets it. And I was very fortunate to have his support. He played a big role in me being here.
Well, Dave, it wasn't the easiest of transitions for you, certainly under tough circumstances. Of course, a very popular play-by-play guy, a great friend of ours here from Tulsa, Bill Tegans, killed in that tragic 2001 Oklahoma State basketball plane crash. And all of a sudden, you're the new voice of the Cowboys.
Yes, and we had great support, and for me it was just come in, do the job, don't say a whole lot, just watch, listen, observe, figure things out, and just go do the best job you can, and let things happen as they do. Bill was fantastic. Obviously, everybody knows that, and he obviously did the job wonderfully, and so when I came in, the quality work had been done. And so, we had a lot of great people in other roles, whether it's Joe Riddle as our producer, Tom Dorado doing color, Robert Allen eventually went to the sideline. That really helped me because I could sort of ease into the role. They would help sort of carry me through those first couple of years so that I could sort of get settled. So it just had lots of help and lots of support from the fans as well. They were very, very understanding of, I'm sure, a lot of missteps in those first couple of years.
All right, Dave, let's talk Cowboy football 2024. Arguably, you've got the toughest opener of all our Big Four teams. Who would think the Jackrabbits of South Dakota State would be a challenger? My gosh, they come in here with, a two-time FCS national championships and a winning streak of 29 straight games. And Coach Gundy's got you guys on warning.
Well, and the preseason camp was such that you can tell it was a big time opener because there was a lot of focus and, a lot of detail. They pushed hard, as you would expect with an experienced group, roughly 19 starters coming back. If you want to understand that South Dakota State has some good players, here's something to consider. They've had 5 players on offense drafted in the NFL draft in the last 3 years. That is more than Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Iowa State, and TCU. So if you're thinking, well, these guys are just a really nice little FCS team, but their players don't scare me, you better give them your attention because they are legit and they are very, very good. They have a good quarterback, which is obviously one of the key ingredients to pulling off an upset like this. And they've won against FBS competition before. They beat Kansas in 2015. They hammered Colorado State a few years ago and had near wins at Minnesota. And the last game they lost was 7-3 at Iowa in the opener of 2022.
Next 2 games are really special. Arkansas comes to Stillwater. I don't know if that's ever happened before, September the 7th. And then you come to Tulsa on September the 14th to take on the Golden Hurricane.
Yeah, it's probably the most exciting non-conference schedule we've had collectively, maybe in all the time I've been here. We've had some great non-conference games over the years. We had Georgia come in here to open the West End Zone, the renovated Boone Pickens Stadium in 2009. We had UCLA in here one time. I think it was 2003 that they came to town. Pittsburgh's been here. We've had several, but my goodness, you think about the Razorbacks coming and, for a long time, we played the Razorbacks, but most of those games were in Little Rock or Fayetteville. There were hardly any of those games played in Stillwater back in, I guess it would have been the 60s and early 70s, if my memory serves me right. So it'll be great to have them here. It'll be an awesome atmosphere. And then Tulsa, obviously a long-standing rivalry there. And you never know when you play them what's going to happen. I mean, the last couple of times we've played them, really the last 3 times, I guess it is, the games have been very, very competitive and 2 of them really close. So I don't expect anything different.
Well, on paper, it looks like Oklahoma State is the king of the Big 12 now. 80% of the players returning from last year's fabulous team running for the Big 12 championship, and led by, of course, Ollie Gordon II, the leading rusher in all of college football. And then, I don't ever retire, graduate quarterback Alan Bowman, his 7th year. Is that right, Dave?
Yeah, it is. And, I'll say this, the Utah Utes have something to say about this.
Yeah.
I mean, they are a really good football team, a consistent winner, excellent on defense, excellent linebackers, great quarterback play. They've got something to say about this. And not to mention, Kansas State, Iowa State, that could be involved in the mix. Arizona probably has 2 first-round draft picks that are very, very good players on offense. So it'll be interesting. You're going to be, as you were last year, in a bunch of close games. And last year, you pretty much won them all. You'll need to do the same this year. And, the thing that needs to get better, we all know, is the defense. Offensively, you've got a gajillion weapons all over the place. Defensively, you have to get better. There's just no way around it. I don't think you can get into a situation where you just outscore people this year. I don't think that will turn out as good.
And you look at that SEC, the media poll for the Big 12, and I still find it hard to believe they've got Oklahoma State 3rd. A lot of people thought this would be, if not this year, win for the Cowboys to start dominating the Big 12 conference.
Well, and I think part of that, Chris, is a lot of people look at it, and very understandably so, because it's a very credible source, Pro Football Focus. And Oklahoma State as a team ranked 57th in Pro Football Focus last year. The analytics did not match the Cowboys' accomplishments, and I think a lot of people that vote look at that information, and it's very credible information. It just tells you that the Cowboys made a lot of key plays in close game situations last year. So I think some people look at that and say, you know what? That was a 10-win team last year, but I'm not sure that maybe they were as good as their record indicates. So I'm going to vote them down a little bit. I don't know that I believe that necessarily. I think this team is fully loaded and very capable of winning the league, and especially if we see that improvement on defense I'm speaking of. But again, I think people look at last year and they're a little puzzled by the 2-2 start, and so I think that plays some role in it.
Dave Hunziker about to start his 24th season as the voice of the Cowboys. And Dave, I'm going to say it's pistols firing. Have a great season.
Thank you, Chris. Great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
All right, next we're going to have Bruce Howard, the voice of the Golden Hurricanes, talk about TU football 2024. Stay with us on our football preview show.
Tulsa Oilers hockey at the BOK Center. The ultimate experience of hockey and entertainment. Save big on season tickets today. Full season tickets starting as low as $17 per month for all 36 home games. Get your season tickets at TulsaOilers.com. That's TulsaOilers.com. Experience hard-hitting, glove-dropping, pulse-pounding, glass-rattling kind of thrill. Season tickets available now at TulsaOilers.com. That's TulsaOilers.com. This is your town, your team, your Tulsa Oilers hockey.
Around the clock, throughout eastern Oklahoma, we are devoted to one thing: improving the health of our communities, our home. We are your friends, your neighbors. We are the people of St. Francis. Our story, it lives in Tulsa, where the spirit of the past lives alongside us and urges us on toward a vibrant future. Because our story is still being written. It's the story of Tulsa, told by the journalists who live it and love it. Whether it's covering our rich history, bringing you the hidden gems of the food scene, or following the action in local sports. And here, in the Tulsa world, is where it comes to life.
And now, for the voice of the Golden Hurricane, Bruce Howard. Bruce, you actually came to Tulsa as a Tulsa Driller broadcaster. Tell us about getting into Tulsa.
Well, yeah, I got the job as the Tulsa Drillers announcer rather late, actually. It was March of 1989, just before the season began, and they had a late opening. And I was lucky enough to, Joe Presserin, if you remember that name, I was lucky enough to get hired by Joe and come to Tulsa, and didn't know a whole lot, honestly, about the city of Tulsa, and came to do the Drillers, loved it. Went on a 9-hour bus ride to Jackson, Mississippi for my first ever game. And the first player that I ever announced for the Drillers, the first pitch to the first player was to Sammy Sosa. So
wow.
It was quite a beginning with a team that had a lot of really good players, Juan Gonzalez and Dean Palmer, and a whole bunch of other really good future major league players on that first Drillers team. So that was my introduction to Tulsa and to the Drillers.
All right, tell us about the move then to the University of Tulsa. Coming up was the now director of broadcasting sports in 1995.
Yeah, started in 95 full-time at the university, but I actually broadcast the Tulsa games for a couple of years and did the Drillers. So I was a pretty busy guy for a couple of years. Kind of two really good part-time jobs, if you will, doing the Drillers and TU. And then in 1995, university stepped forward and wanted somebody to kind of run the radio network. And so they hired me in 1995, and the rest is history.
And you got some great history, Bruce. Let's relive some of that. I know it's not easy to kind of pick out great memories of some of your broadcasting and some of your favorite teams, players, coaches. Kind of take us through some of your memories of Golden Hurricane football and basketball.
Well, I got spoiled really quickly on Tulsa basketball, obviously. It was a great time, kind of the salad days, if you will, of Tulsa basketball with Tubby Smith and then, Steve Robinson and Bill Self. And, in those first 10 years that I broadcast, Tulsa went to the NCAA tournament 8 times, went to 3 Sweet 16s, got to an Elite 8, and then won an NIT as well. So, I mean, it was a really great period of time, my first 10 years. And, the great moments you think about, the first time you do something is always very important. The first time Tulsa reached a Sweet 16 in my first year, 93, 94 was huge, with the wins over UCLA and OSU. So those are memories that you'll never forget. And then of course the run in 2000 with the NCAA Elite 8 with Bill Self's team was really special as well. And then football wise, 11 straight losing seasons to begin my career at Tulsa, and then it changed in 2003 with Steve Cragthorpe. But leading up to that time, Tulsa had some big wins. They beat ranked teams a lot during that period of time in the 90s, including beating OU and beating a number 19 Iowa team at home. So there were some great moments, even though those were some down years for Tulsa football. And then, of course, when Steve Cragthorpe got here and turned things around in 2003. And then all of a sudden they're winning, conference championships and going to bowl games and winning bowl games and that sort of thing. So it's been a lot of fun.
And sadly, we lost Steve Cragthorpe just recently in a long battle with Parkinson's disease. What a great guy! What a great job he did for this University of Tulsa.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he was pretty special. After Tulsa was down in the dumps, had only won one Division I game in 2 years, and he comes in and they go 8-5 and go to a bowl game in the first bowl game since 1991. So yeah, a remarkable turnaround. And he was here for 4 years and really kind of set the stage, if you will, or set the foundation for Tulsa's success that we've had, this century, if you will, since 2000.
All right, how about some funny and maybe some not so funny travel stories? We all have them as broadcasters. How about for you, Bruce?
Oh gosh, there's too many we'd have to do another entire program to go through some of that. You can go from me, unfortunately losing my equipment case. I entrusted my equipment case in New York City to a guy named Larry Heggie, who we all very well know from EOC in the days.
Yes.
Unfortunately, he lost that case in a New York City taxi cab. And so it took a few hours, but we got it back. And so that was a stressful and not so funny story, although now obviously it is funny. And you can't really talk about any of the times I've had with broadcast, interesting incidents without bringing up JV Haney. JV was just a special, and of course you worked with him for years, just such a special color analyst in football or in basketball, and then also was our sideline guy in football. So lots of stuff happening with him that was funny. But I think the funniest was, at the end of the half back in the day, he would have to do an interview with the coach coming off the field at halftime, and JV was at the wrong end of the field, and this was when Keith Burns was the head coach, and so we get to the end of the half and we're like, well, JV Haney is supposed to be interviewing Coach Burns here anytime, and the team is going one direction and JV is at the other end zone, and all of a sudden you could almost see the exclamation points coming out of JV's head, like, oh my gosh, I've got to go do this interview. So JV with those little feet trundling down the field trying to catch up to Coach Burns, who is on his way off and not really probably thinking about the interview. All of a sudden, we kicked it. Me and Rick Corey kicked into play-by-play. It's like, Burns is at the 20, JV's at the 40. Burns is at the 15, JV's now at the 25. So we had some fun with that. And JV also did something very special in a football game one time and recorded Billy the Warrior out in Hawaii and put him on the air. Just a hookah chant, one of those hookah chants that they do, and it was complete gibberish as far as we were concerned, even though it was actually a language. And we put that on the air one night at about 1:00 in the morning Central Time in a game in Hawaii. So, just some funny times, some fun times.
All right, now let's talk TU football 2024. We've had 2 winning seasons in the last 5 years. Second season for Coach Wilson. Let's talk about this TU football program. I think Kevin will be able to turn it around now.
Oh, I think so. He's done a great job of instilling a great deal of accountability and discipline, and I think that's going to pay off in this day and age. It's very difficult sometimes to gauge how good a team you have because of all the turnover you have now with the NIL and with the portal and that kind of thing. But I think he's done a very good job. Him and his staff have done a really good job of bringing some talent in. Now the question is, will it mesh and will they get it together and have a great season? I think they will. I think they've got a chance to be pretty good this year, and so I'm looking forward to it. I think he's done a very nice job of cobbling this program together.
And you got to remember, losses. 3 of those 4 losses in the last 4 games were by 7 points or less.
Right. Yeah. No, they were in some ball games, and a couple of those that kind of stung. The Charlotte loss was a tough one in overtime, and they lost some other close ones, but they did win the last game on a last second field goal at ECU. So a little bit of momentum there, Chris.
Of course, we kicked off on Thursday against Northwestern State at Chapman Stadium. Then we go to Arkansas State next week. But the one I was talking about and has circled for some time, September the 14th, Saturday, Oklahoma State comes to Tulsa.
Yeah, 11 o'clock game, one of those early morning games, but that's okay. It should be exciting. When I first started broadcasting, Chris, Tulsa and OSU played almost every year. It was home and away and went back and forth. And obviously things have changed, and Tulsa hasn't played OSU as much, but they played them some. And Tulsa has not won in that series since 1998. So, you're hoping you can get them at home, but OSU is awfully good and they're awfully experienced. They're a more experienced team than Tulsa coming into that game. But we'll see. We'll see where Tulsa is coming in. And, certainly 2 winnable games coming into the OSU contest, but you still got to go out and win them.
Hey, quick look here at the preseason American Athletic Conference media poll. This poll's never been kind to the Golden Hurricane. They've got TU right now slotted number 12 of the 14-team league.
Yeah, I mean, I have always thought, Chris, that Tulsa does better when they're not predicted to be really, really good. It seems like Tulsa seems to do better when they got a little chip on their shoulder. So preseason polls, preseason All-Americans, preseason All-League, all of that stuff is worth about the paper that you put it on. I mean, it's not to me, you pay a little bit of attention because it's all potential, what is your potential? But, nobody wins championships. Nobody wins games on potential. You got to go out and do it.
And Coach Wilson named a quarterback. It sounds like we might have a chance to see all 3 quarterbacks early in the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Coach did say that, Kirk Francis is going to be the guy taking that first snap, that first series, and who knows where it goes from there. But he did indicate that, not necessarily calling him the starter, but he will start this game, and all 3 will play. So we'll see what happens. I like all 3 quarterbacks. I think they bring different things to the table for Tulsa, and I think there's a place for each and every one of them at certain points during the season or during a game. And I think a lot of times, if you think back to it, you can't really get through a season injury-wise anymore without at least 2 or 3 quarterbacks.
So what season will this be for you, calling the Golden Hurricane, Bruce?
This will be the 32nd, believe it or not. Yeah.
Well, get a winner, Bruce. Thank you. You've been a great supporter of the University of Tulsa. Done a great job. And thank you for joining us on Oklahoma Sports Scene. Have a great season and go TU.
Hey, I appreciate it, Chris. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
And come back with another of our broadcast folks to talk more football when we return.
You've seen the billboards, you've heard the hype, and now it's time for the Wee Street Ice Center to open its doors and welcome you in. 140,000 square feet, 2 ice rinks, public skating, hockey, arcade, game simulators, and the largest sports bar and grill is sliding into Tulsa. It's the grand opening of the new Wee Street Ice Center, 43rd and Yale. Make your plans, get your skate on, or watch some sports today. The Wee Street Ice Center, now open and ready to serve you. Wee Street Ice Center, 43rd and Yale.
Thoroughbred season at Remington Park continues into December with plenty of winning primetime action. Make plans now for Oklahoma Derby Day on Sunday, September 29th. The lone Sunday afternoon of the season begins at 3 p.m. with the richest race of the season, the Grade 3 $400,000 Oklahoma Derby as the main event. The normal Remington Park racing week is Wednesday through Saturday. First race nightly, 6:30 p.m. Visit remingtonpark.com for all post times, group rates, and dining reservations.
Founded in 1960, Ed Bashira's formal wear and fine clothing has been dressing gentlemen for over half a century. We are family owned and operated, offering premium brand tuxedos and accessories at our Tulsa store on South Harvard. Bashira's also does made-to-measure suits, sports coats, dress shirts, and slacks, and a top line of sportswear. We do tailoring on site to assure the perfect fit so you will look your very best for that special occasion. Ed Bashira's formal wear and fine clothing, an Oklahoma tradition.
The Oklahoma Sports Hall of Fame, home of the Paycom Jim Thorpe Award, is a treasure trove of memorabilia honoring Oklahoma sports legends. For museum hours or to schedule a tour, go to oklahomasportshalloffame.org.
And it's time to call the Hogs now with the voice of the Arkansas Razorbacks and the newest member, the Arkansas Sportscasters Hall of Fame, Chuck Barrett. Chuck, first, congratulations on a well-deserved and well-earned honor.
Well, thank you, Chris. It's always good to be with you. Talk to a fellow Hall of Fame. I know you're doing a lot of more than me.
Well, tell us about your decades of involvement with the Arkansas Razorbacks. It's been a long time.
You know, I started in 1992. I began broadcasting the baseball games for the Razorbacks then, and started hosting the pregame show in football 2 years later. And I had the glorious job of answering the phones on the pregame show and giving the scores at the end of the broadcast. So that's how it all started.
Well, you've worked with some legends of the game, including one of my all-time friends, old sports director at KETV Channel 7 Little Rock, legendary Paul Eels, with the voice of the Razorbacks for so many years, tragically killed in that car accident back in 2006. But you had some big shoes to fill, my friend.
Yes, you're right. Paul was a gentleman's gentleman. And he, you know, he's one of those people, Chris, that people still talk about, people still love. He's so much a part of people's lives in our state, even now almost 20 years after his passing.
So, Chuck, how would you describe your play-by-play style?
Well, I'm exciting, I hope. Probably a little more emotional than some. I'm an Arkansas guy. So I get excited about the Razorbacks, and I think people know where I'm coming from in that respect. I think the one thing too, and you know this, Chris, is we are not the game. We are not part of the game. Our job is to take the listener to the game. And so that's my focus more than anything, are the people that can't be there and don't have a chance to watch that day.
So any special phrases or sayings that you're best known for, Chuck?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, you know, we like to say touchdown Arkansas. That's you know, that's kind of the one that I guess all the play-by-play guys have said. And, you know, that's I don't know that there's anything particularly clever about it, but you say it a certain way, and people seem to identify with it in Arkansas.
What are some of your favorite memories of the years of players, coaches, games, and stuff that you've been a part of?
You know, there are so many. I can remember my first year as a play-by-play announcer was 2000, I think 2007. It was Houston Nutt's last year as our head coach. Just I remember how nervous I was, how Keith Jackson just carried me through. At the end of that year, we beat LSU in Baton Rouge in a triple overtime game. And at the time, everyone thought it knocked LSU out of what was then the BCS, but the computers put them back in, and they ended up winning the national championship. But Arkansas beat them in 3 overtimes, and that was a great game. And we've had a couple of nice wins over Texas in my time, and that's always fun too.
Yeah, we Oklahoma people remember you were tough on the Sooners a couple of times in the Orange Bowl.
Well, one time went our way, one time went Oklahoma's way. That's something that I think Arkansas fans are looking forward to. Now that Oklahoma's in the SEC, we've got such a history with Texas, but our history with Oklahoma is we've just not played one another that much. It's a rather brief history. We've had some big games. I live on the western side of the state, obviously, the northwest corner. And so I think a lot of people are interested in playing the Sooners again. And, of course, we play Oklahoma State before we play Oklahoma. So
that's right.
It's not a conference game, but it's a really important game.
Yeah, people got that one scheduled, circled on their calendar. September the 7th, the Arkansas Razorbacks actually cross the state line and come to play in Stillwater.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm old enough to remember when Arkansas and Oklahoma State played a lot. I've still got childhood nightmares of a young Terry Miller. Just tearing the Razorbacks apart. And they had some great teams back then. And I think our fans enjoy that. There are a lot of kids from Northwest Arkansas that go to college in Stillwater. And conversely, there are a lot of kids in Northeast Oklahoma that come to school in Fayetteville. So it's a family affair for a lot of people, too.
Take a look at your 2024 schedule here, Chuck. And another one you have to circle, of course, Saturday, November 16th, Texas Longhorns come to Razorback Stadium there.
The last time they played, Arkansas won and rushed the field, really manhandled Texas. This was a few years ago, right after Texas had announced that they were going to come to the SEC. And I think a lot of people wondered, and I think really, frankly, it probably showed Texas what they needed to do in terms of changing some of their structure, the way they put together their team. But yeah, they'll come to Fayetteville in November. What you hope is that there's a lot on the line, man. There's so much that's going to happen between now and that football game for it to mean as much as people want it to mean.
But Chuck, the big question, of course, in Arkansas and around the nation, actually, 2024, the fate of your very popular coach, Sam Pittman. What do you think?
Well, you got to win games. I think we know that. And I think Arkansas has got to have a successful season. I think that's the barometer for everyone. I'm going to be interested to see as we move through the year, not just with Arkansas, but in other schools, how all the financing with all the coming payments to players and the money and the things of that nature, how all that's going to play into AD's decisions. But the bottom line is you have to win. I think he knows that. They've revamped the offense. Bobby Petrino's back as the offensive coordinator this time, which is clearly a very different situation. So I think there's a lot of optimism, but obviously everyone knows that, you've got to win. It's year 5, and I think he understands that.
Look at the SEC preseason media poll for what that's worth, and not much when it comes to Arkansas. They've got the Hogs down in 14th of the 16 SEC teams.
Yeah, that's not exactly where you'd like to be picked, but nothing against the SEC media poll, but we've been in the league 32 years, I guess now. They've been wrong more than they've been right. So, we'll go play and see what happens.
Well, Chuck Barrett, again, congratulations, a Hall of Famer, and have a great season again with the Razorbacks. And I know you're looking forward to that. And I guess if anybody's never been to Razorback Stadium on a game day, you need to experience that. It's a great experience to get there and call the Hogs. Nothing quite like it.
It will be fun. We're about to get started. And I hope by the time we get to the point, Chris, where all the leaves start changing, I hope we've got some meaningful football games and some packed houses. So hopefully that's coming down the pike.
Well, thanks again, Chuck. And that's our Big 4 football preview with our play-by-play announcers for OU, OSU, Tulsa, and Arkansas. Hope you enjoy the season. Remember, win or lose, it's just a game, unless it's Texas. We'll be right back to the final segment of Oklahoma Sports Scene. Stay with us.
It's time. Time to get back to the basics. Time to meet up with family and friends. Time to play ball. It's time to cheer on your Tulsa Drillers. It's Hornsby time. It's Tulsa time in the heart of the city. It's time to fire it up.
Our story, it lives in Tulsa, where the spirit of the past lives alongside us and urges us on toward a vibrant future. Because our story is still being written. It's the story of Tulsa, told by the journalists who live it and love it. Whether it's covering our rich history, bringing you the hidden gems of the food scene, or following the action in local sports. And here, in the Tulsa world, is where it comes to life.
Tulsa Oilers hockey at the BOK Center. The ultimate experience of hockey and entertainment. Save big on season tickets today. Full season tickets starting as low as $17 per month for all 36 home games. Get your season tickets at TulsaOilers.com. That's TulsaOilers.com. Experience hard-hitting, glove-dropping, pulse-pounding, glass-rattling kind of thrill. Season tickets available now at TulsaOilers.com. That's TulsaOilers.com. This is your town, your team, your Tulsa Oilers hockey.
Welcome back to Oklahoma Sports Scene. Take you down to America's oldest racetrack, Saratoga Springs in upstate New York, for the running of the Travers Stakes, the 155th running of the Travers, the race they call the Midsummer Derby. Big matchup in this Grade 1 3-year-old race worth of $1.25 million at mile and a quarter. Feature the number 1 filly in the nation, Torpedo Anna, multiple Grade 1 winner. She's on the outside. She'll be challenging the best colts, including number 8 Fierceness. He was last year's 2-year-old champion. We'll pick it up now as they turn for home in the Travers Stakes.
3/4 in 1:11.3. They're at the top of the stretch, and Fierceness takes command. Sierra Leone is coming with his run on the outside of Torpedo Anna, who's currently second. They're in the final furlong. Johnny V asking Fierceness for everything he has. 3-length lead. Torpedo Anna running her heart out and coming with every stride. Fierceness, Torpedo Anna in an absolutely dramatic conclusion. The champ is back. Fierceness holds off a gallant Torpedo Anna to win the DraftKings Travers. Sierra Leone was third.
Fierceness holds off the top filly Torpedo Anna by a head to win a dramatic Travers. Now let's go to Oklahoma City with the week's Remington Report with Dale Day. Also a feature on another trainer there at Remington Park with Richard Lenahan.
Now a couple of weeks into the season here at Remington Park, and we're still waiting to return to the track of last year's horse of the meeting, Miss Code West. She's been preparing in the mornings, and she's getting close to action. Richard Lenahan has more.
Kevin Scholl is a mom-and-pop style horse trainer. He only has 6 stalls on the Remington Park grounds, but in one of those stalls is last year's Remington Park horse of the meet, Miss Code West. He said he has never had one like her.
No. She's a dream come true, really. She's the biggest blessing I've ever had.
Miss Code West was undefeated in 4 starts here last year, winning 3 stakes. The Oklahoma Classics Lassie, the Slideshow Stakes, and the Trapeze. The Trapeze has been renamed the Toby Keith Stakes this year. Remington Park paddock host Kelly O'Hara interviewed Scholl after the Slideshow.
Kevin, you've been impressed with her, you said, since day one.
Yes, I have. She's very smart, and she's done everything the way she's supposed to.
Miss Code West returns to Remington Park as a 3-year-old filly this meet and already has been working out over her favorite track surface.
I got 3 official works in her. The first time I took her out here when we first got here, she let me know that she was home.
With any luck, Miss Code West will return to the winner's circle, adding to her bankroll of $236,334 earned and improving her 6-for-8 lifetime record. She was a $12,000 purchase for owners Jeffrey and Julie Purrier of Denton, Texas. Scholl said you can look for her to race first in the Oklahoma Stallion Stakes for fillies on Friday, September 6th. Miss Code West loves to run and may be last year's bargain basement buy of the year.
Thursday night, August 22nd at Remington Park, owner and breeder Brian Hawk of Shawnee, Oklahoma had a huge night. He scored 3 times with horses he owned and bred. Promise Code in race number 4, CW Charm in race number 8, and Breakable Code in the 9th and final race of the evening. All 3 Oklahoma breds, owned and bred by Brian Hawk, off to a nice start of the season. Final week of racing in August, Thursday through Saturday, August 29th, 30th, and 31st. When September starts, we add Wednesday racing to the weekly schedule, with Wednesday, September 4th, starting that off. First race nightly is at 6:30 p.m. Don't forget Thorough Enduro. The online free contest here at Remington Park begins on Friday, September 13th. Big cash prizes available, and the grand prize is a seat to the 2025 National Horse Players Championship in Las Vegas. The game is free to play. Go to remingtonpark.com, click on the Thorough Enduro button to sign in or register if you've not played before. And one more reminder on your calendar, Oklahoma Derby Day fast approaching. The Grade 3 $400,000 Oklahoma Derby, the richest race of the season, headlines a big card that starts at 3 p.m. on Sunday, September 29th, the lone Sunday of the season. At Remington Park in Oklahoma City, I'm Dale Day. Now back to Sportscene.
And we're back after our final break to take a look at what's coming up next on Oklahoma Sportscene next week. Stay with us.
Our story, it lives in Tulsa, where the spirit of the past lives alongside us and urges us on toward a vibrant future. Because our story is still being written. It's the story of Tulsa, told by the journalists who live it and love it. Whether it's covering our rich history, bringing you the hidden gems of the food scene, or following the action in local sports. And here, in the Tulsa world, is where it comes to life.
Thoroughbred season at Remington Park continues into December with plenty of winning primetime action. Make plans now for Oklahoma Derby Day on Sunday, September 29th. The lone Sunday afternoon of the season begins at 3 p.m. with the richest race of the season, the Grade 3 $400,000 Oklahoma Derby, as the main event. The normal Remington Park racing week is Wednesday through Saturday. First race nightly, 6:30 p.m. Visit remingtonpark.com for all post times, group rates, and dining reservations.
As the sun rises over eastern Oklahoma, we are devoted to one thing: improving the health of our communities, our home. We are your friends, your neighbors. We are the people of St. Francis.
You've seen the billboards, you've heard the hype, and now it's time for the Wee Street Ice Center to open its doors and welcome you in. 140,000 square feet, 2 ice rinks, public skating, hockey, arcade, game simulators, and the largest sports bar and grill is sliding into Tulsa. It's the grand opening of the new Wee Street Ice Center, 43rd and Yale. Make your plans, get your skate on, or watch some sports today. The Wee Street Ice Center, now open and ready to serve you. Wee Street Ice Center, 43rd and Yale.
Next week on Oklahoma Sports Scene, we'll hand out our grades for each of the Big Four football teams, their season openers. And we'll have a special guest again, Andy Skirdo, the owner of the Tulsa Oilers Hockey and Indoor Professional Football League team. We'll talk more about their 2 seasons, look ahead to 2025. Special guests also, surprises coming up next week on Oklahoma Sports Scene. See you then. Until then, as we always remind you, always be a good sport.